Lamping here, PHRA's Executive Director. Welcome to P4, People, Purpose, Passion, Pittsburgh. P4 is brought to you by our members and sponsors, Latitude and the University of Pittsburgh Executive MBA Programs and Center for Executive Education. We appreciate their support, and we will hear from them throughout the podcast, beginning with the University of Pittsburgh Executive MBA Programs and Center for Executive Education. In this episode, Jill will discuss the X factor and how it is important to be proactive, consistent, and to listen to positively influence and impact your employees' lives.
Welcome to this episode of P4. Today, we're joined by Pittsburgh Guru, and I think she's made a presence around Pittsburgh quite a bit over the last few years, and you'll see her name in different spaces around the city, not just in the HR field. So we'll get into a little bit more of that as we dig in with Jill Porter-Scott today, the Director of People X, Benefits, Culture, and Inclusion from AIRS. So Jill, welcome to the show today. Excited to learn more about you and where you came from.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Yeah. Where I came from. I don't know where it all started, right? I've been in HR now for probably about 17 or 18 years. I didn't actually start in HR. I started in risk management at a college at a temp agency, and I was in the typing pool, and I did dictations, and they liked the way I typed letters, so I ended up getting shipped down to a job at a large brokerage house, and there was when I had my first experience with human resources. And I really liked that HR person, and she had an impact on me. So as I continued to work with her through recruiting efforts and going career fairs, I just really liked what the HR space was. And so I stayed in risk management for some time and changed to another brokerage house. But ultimately, after about 6 or 7 years, realized I needed to just make a move and get into a space that I thought I would really enjoy. So I ended up going back for my MBA, taking a job that was out of insurance after being in it for so long. So taking a pay cut and doing a job with like 5 different jobs just to get some HR experience, and just really enjoyed it ever since then. And just have been able to have some progressive HR roles along the way and done a lot of fun stuff, and still just love HR.
Nice. And tell us a little bit more. In your title, it says People X. What's that mean, Joe?
Yeah, so at our organization, it's all things people, and we have a lot of things with X in the name, and it's about the experience. So you see that a lot with customer experience, CX. So People X was just a twist on human resources to really capture our culture. This company AIRS that I work at has an amazing culture, and it's really driven by the people. So it says a lot about who we are and what our focus is here at AIRS and People X.
It's been interesting over the last 12 months. I've learned a lot more about the human experience, the employee experience, the customer experience, all of it. And we can't forget about the people inside as well as outside. It's all together. So cool to see that AIRS is really doing a good job of that. So you told us MBA came from University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Shame that they got knocked out of the March Madness tournament, right?
I know.
But have you used your undergrad in communications at all throughout this HR journey?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, right? We do a ton of communicating and facilitating and discussing and conversing. Yeah, for sure. My undergrad at Slippery Rock was in communication, and I felt like that was just probably at the time it was a way to sidestep business classes, but ultimately it definitely helped in what I currently do and where I'm at. Yeah.
And what you said, why you went into HR, you found the work interesting, but what I heard you say is the person was what really made the difference for you initially.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked how she handled some situations. I liked that she would, the reason that she approached me to go on some of the career fairs was because I wasn't the typical um, look and feel of what they were hiring at the time. It was back to, diversity and inclusion and equity, even then, just showing, because no, I didn't have a business degree at that point in time. Risk management programs were not really that plentiful. So to get into a place, those insurance brokerage houses, you would be typically a business person, but I came in a different way. And I think she liked that. And when I would have blips, I mean, there weren't too many. I was an excellent employee. When there were blips, though, I don't know, she just always handled things really well. And I kept in touch with her as I left and moved on. So yeah, I've seen her over the years and still think fondly of her. So yeah, it was definitely the experience that made me think this is something I want to do, want to help people.
It's another way for us to think about, hey, I'd like to get into HR. Wow, being able to positively influence and impact so many lives. That sounds pretty cool. I personally, I'm an engineer, right? They don't teach you much about HR stuff in engineering school, even engineering grad school, they don't teach you about HR stuff. Communications, maybe you get a little bit, but throughout the different P4 podcast sessions, we've heard people come from legal backgrounds, from real estate backgrounds. I think somebody was like a pilot or something at one point, right? Military backgrounds. It's cool that so many different roads can lead to HR. And you sort of answered it, but just hone in a little bit more, Joe, on why HR? What is it that gets you excited to jump out of bed in the morning, stay up late,
Yeah.
put up with go through, right, all these exhilarating situations that you're faced? What's your why for HR?
I'm a fixer, I guess. I like to fix things. I like to help people. I like to, if there's a problem, if there's something that I'm equipped to be able to see, organizational development, structure. If there's something broken and I can see 4 steps, behind or in front of, to understand why it's broken or why it's going to be broken, why wouldn't I want to help and make the organization better, but more importantly, make the employees experience better. It's so difficult to go to work and not either enjoy what you're doing every day or not enjoy what you're doing with whom you're doing it. So, your manager, your coworkers, and so many times it's just about a structure issue or a communication issue. And if resolved, everyone's life and productivity is so much better. And a lot of people just have a hard time, they struggle with having those tough communication, having those tough conversations. They don't have a resource that can just really want to help them without, making things worse or having ulterior motives. I just really enjoy coming into an organization, getting to know the industry, getting to know what their development areas are, what they really excel at, and how I can help and just help move the people and by helping the people move the organization forward.
There's a lot of influence we have in these roles, and as leadership titles get attached to our names over time, there's people listen, right? Let's talk a little bit, and we talked about this a little bit in the pre-session before we got started today, about the onboarding, right? So whenever we're bringing new folks onto our team, it's a very pivotal moment for everybody. You're sharing a lot of those good resources with them. Anything that you've seen that really is like a must do during that onboarding process? And has it changed much since we've gone to this WFX, like work from anywhere, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, completely. So I think there was the onboarding before COVID, and now there's onboarding post-COVID. Onboarding has always been, no matter what company I've been at, a something that's either really made or broken. I think the new hire experience, and it was typically dependent on the manager or how much, at some point People X or human resources has to hand off that new hire. And so that onboarding is critical, whether it's training or the culture, indoctrination, whatever it might be. So when I started here at Ayers, it was in the midst of COVID still. And we were struggling, as most companies were, just trying to figure out what to do. We were still hiring people. We navigated COVID rather well and have continued to grow. And so we were still hiring people, and we were hiring them in a remote space, and we were trying to figure out this in office, not in office, and the vaccinations and all that stuff. And so eventually we just decided, we're just going to start fresh with onboarding. And so we kicked off a program that is very high touch with the new hire the at the middle of it, all the thick of it, to figure out what makes the most sense. We did research. We talked to new hires within the last 6 to 12 months in our company. We talked to managers, and we really just kind of expanded the program. We have touch points with the new hire, starting at week one, a month in, 3 months in, 6 months in, 12 months. We do surveys with them. We take the surveys, we give the feedback to the managers. We disseminate the feedback. So our training team will get the feedback if there's a training breakdown. The manager gets the feedback. We roll it up so that it's visible to leadership, so they understand. And we really put, like I said, that new hire at the main point of it, so that they can feel that support. And even more critically now with a remote hybrid workforce, to make sure that they can kind of sense and feel that. So definitely made changes, and we're excited about it, and I think it's really working. We've already been able to catch some issues, some employee relations issues, some employees needing more training, more support. So it's been great.
It seems like the sense of belonging is what you're really amplifying there. And again, you have benefits, culture, inclusion, and the three parts of your title after People X, and you have a lot of touch points there. That's pretty cool. And something that I've learned from other previous guests is that there's onboarding and there's orientation and there's assimilation. And it doesn't just happen in the first couple hours of day one or week one. So that's powerful. And as I talk to more and more people, I mean, look at your growth, right? The company grows because of the great people and the great people that continue to grow and develop. And it seems like a lot of that is the trust, right? Hey, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and here's the results so far, right? Sharing and communicating it back and forth.
Mhm.
So do you feel like you're building a lot of trust and respect from day one with these kind of programs in place?
Yeah, they certainly help, right? I mean, they can, of course, only do so much if you don't have a culture or leadership that's aligned, or a very transparent. I think you use very transparent company. But yeah, these programs, onboarding, they aid so much in retention. They help so much get the employees to feel committed. Just even like sending notes of our president sends a note to the new hires. We send a little welcome kit to the new hires.
Yep.
We gave the managers resources because they were struggling at how to do this. And just because we tell them to do this, one version of, okay, please execute XYZ looks very different between the managers. So certainly those have all helped and build that trust. And then it's just a lot of, consistency. If you're going to do something, do it. If you, and certainly coming from People X and HR, that's so important because our trust is critical to our success within the organization. And it's earned, so we have to be very diligent in what we're doing and consistent in the messaging. And so, whatever programs we're putting in place, they really have to roll up to our culture and our messaging and what our organizational beliefs and goals are, so all of that has to be aligned in my mind in order for people to trust you, for people to understand that, yeah, oh yeah, they're working in the same direction. There's not mixed messages happening.
So you don't have like a little bottle of trust powder behind you and sprinkle it on some of the
No,
different things.
no, I've looked, I can't find that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey, Liz, I wonder if we're selling any of that at the conference coming up this year.
What we can do, right? Mhm.
As I'm looking at some of these notes here, Jill, can you talk a little bit more about how you went through rebuilding that onboarding process? A lot of people around the PHRA family and beyond are in this, stage of, hey, maybe we should look at some different things. One, how'd you figure out like we should rebuild this? And then two, was it internal, external, any of the other like, hey, I wish we would have done this at the beginning? That's
Yeah.
not something that everybody typically does in their day. Well, you don't do it in a day-to-day role, hopefully. Just dig a little bit deeper on that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. So when I first came on board, it was really important for me I did every exit interview for the first maybe 6 months, and I listened to every person who was leaving and then communicated back to the managers just to try to understand what these exiting employees were leaving, as a result of what was the impetus. And that was really telling to me. And it was critical, I think, in where did a revamp of onboarding come from? Where did the comp review that we started come from? Where did the need for a training team come from? Those exit interviews. So it's just listening, right? At its core, it was just listening to what our people were saying. I certainly listened to the new hires. I certainly listened to the existing employees who've been here for some time, but those exiting employees, what was amazing to me is that they would leave and saying like, I love this place. I really do. It's this, or it's COVID, or it's whatever, but here are some things that if you all could change, it would just make this place that much better. So it just felt silly to not take them seriously and explore that. And then as I was kind of reorganizing the HR team, understanding that there was a bit of a gap, and you're right. I mean, and all the jobs I've been at, I mean, you rarely have the luxury of having someone dedicated to onboarding. Most of the time that's a recruiter, or that's a generalist role, or somebody who's just really not really focused in that. It's a side job really, and amongst all the other things that we as HR professionals have to do. So once I realized that, it was going to be even more critical over COVID, and whatever this hybrid work was going to look like, then it just became, okay, we just need to make this happen and talk to leaders and understand what, I listened to the employees, but now it's time to listen to the managers and understand what they felt their pain points were. Our culture is so strong. How do we in the remote workforce really build these culture points with these new hires for them to understand it and learn it sooner? So it was just, again, kind of going back to that, trying to understand what the problem really is, what to fix, and just listening to then have the information enough to build a program that fit for us. What we're doing might not fit for everybody, but it certainly is fitting really well for us. And we're already seeing, like I said, just such great engagement with it. So just really trying to make that onboarding a strong part of the HR function versus just another task, just another thing that we have to do, and putting more ownership on us and supporting the managers to help them have what they need to onboard successfully.
Ongoing, right? They say early and often, and make sure it's ongoing.
Yeah.
You talked about listening at all levels, and being there for people no matter where they are, and meeting them where they are, not one size fits all.
Right.
Jill, as you're talking through this, you mentioned a couple of surveys, some feedback points, and also feedback processes. Are there certain things that you ask for feedback at a macro level, organization wide? Are there certain ways that you structure? You mentioned exit interviews. Do you do, stay interviews? Is there anything else around that piece? Just kind of talk a little bit more about the kind of survey feedback and the other piece, how you're listening.
Yeah, sure. So each survey point, it kind of touches on something specific and relative to what they've just gone through. So their first week, it's really, did you get your technology? Did you get set up okay? How was help desk? What issues, did you meet your manager? Any concerns there? Then, 3 months in is typically when we have a large training program, which is just about our culture and learning the whole organization. It's called X Factor. And so people come into our Pittsburgh office from all over the world, and they go through 4 days of, getting to know their colleagues, getting to know the different departments. So our surveys are around that. How was that X Factor? How are you feeling about that sort of training? Then we also rolled out a training team last year, which focuses on the job training. And so they put our employees in certain positions. It's being expanded across the organization, but currently it's in our operations space. And so they go through, 12 weeks of training within their first few weeks of being here. So they're immediately indoctrinated into the training and hands-on training. So it's very much, about then that checkpoint is about how the training's going and what they feel like they need, how the trainers were they engaging? Are they able to connect the dots and go back to their managers? And then it's caseload once they start working day-to-day job and handling our business. Then it's okay. Do you need some upskilling? Do you need some reskilling? Where's the disconnect now? And then it's about leadership. How are you seeing our leaders? How are you interacting? What knowledge do you think you're missing at this point in time? So we kind of hit, we're hitting on culture, we're hitting on training, we're hitting on leadership, we're hitting on benefits. We're asking just about their benefit experience. Did you get enrolled okay? All aspects of human resources, in my mind, are touched upon in those surveys, so that we have a really good understanding of what that new hire experience is and can make changes real time.
Yeah, almost. She brought up a couple of concepts that are typically outside of HR. Almost sounds like an agile approach, right? Wow, right? We only do that stuff in software and like
Mhm.
project management. And
Yeah.
then, asking the whys and going into the root cause almost sounds like Lean Six Sigma and
Mhm.
industrial engineering.
Mhm.
Whoa, you never talk about that stuff inside of HR.
Right.
So cool to see how you're bringing these industry agnostic principles to something that isn't typically rooted in innovation. But clearly, you can shake that up and say, hey, it is all possible. So good on you. Two quick follow-ups there.
Mhm.
Feedback, are those with my name on it or anonymous?
Name's on it. Yeah, name is on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are. So we also do engagement surveys, which are
Yeah.
confidential. So, culture engagement, we do pulse surveys around like DEI, including leaders, um, the hybrid work, and then our full engagement surveys are the ones we've done this year. And those are confidential, but in these situations, these new hires, these are not
Yeah.
confidential. And we encourage them to be honest so that we're able to, we don't position it like, hey, be honest, then we're gonna, smack you around with your comments, right? Like, it's be honest so that we can help you and others. And when you take that approach, people have not shied away from giving us the feedback. And we've been really appreciative of that.
Interesting. Have you guys thought about sharing some of these organizational feedback metrics back to the larger employee base? Is that something that you do, or maybe do? Because, and that's one quick reason why, right? A lot of times at organizations, I've been at, yeah, we're going to do this thing, we're going to have this employee engagement survey, we're going to hear what you're saying, and then nothing happens.
Nothing
It's
happens.
like,
Yeah.
hey, Jill, didn't you say we're going to do that thing? And you're
Yeah.
like, we get busy. So what's your approach to that?
Yeah, we're a very metrics driven organization, and we are a very transparent organization. So we share data a lot, and it's okay here to do that. So I think the biggest struggle we've had is just the best way in which to share it. And we hadn't done engagement surveys for years, so this was the first time. So we wanted to kind of get these under our belt and then get a nice cadence and a nice approach to sharing it in a way that was, I think, meaningful and well received. So we haven't shared some of the data yet, but that is certainly in our plan because of just how important we think it is. Also, we're a very survey driven organization. What we do are a lot of our employee population is their scores, they have survey scores. So everyone is really interested in the data here. So
Yeah.
it again will land differently than maybe other companies who aren't accustomed to being surveyed in their day-to-day job.
I have some other ideas around that. I love some data, and it's cool to see your approach. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And one of the things that we want to continue improving is our professional growth maps. And whenever you mentioned some of those exit interviews, you didn't really talk about the dislikes. It just seemed like there were some external factors. But outside of theirs, there's a lot of people that leave because of the lack of career guidance and professional advice. It seems like the talent team that you've set up is headed in the right direction from day one, week one, month one, year one. Can you talk a little bit more about that professional development, and maybe there's something that you've heard specifically around that growth advice?
Sure. Again, I think we're really lucky here because we have a culture that encourages promotion and looking at the next level and identifying what that career path looks like. We also have an organization where folks can move around. We have a lot of my corporate trainers have been in the operations space. They know it very well, and they've come into People X, and so they're adding just a ton of value with their hands-on experience that they had and as managers to be able to train our new folks and upskill and reskill. So I think from when you look at your career path, when you look at your development, it's having that interest and being able to just raise your hand. And I mean, I couldn't articulate why I wanted to be in human resources, right? I just knew that I needed to, I wanted to, but I didn't know what it looked like. And so luckily I've had folks in my career who have been willing to kind of share what their path was and to be able to see that. So I think, within our organization, our leaders have moved up from internal and in the ranks, and we have a lot of, our job descriptions, there's alignment in job descriptions and what the next level looks like when we're talking about goals and performance, succession planning, all of those are pieces of helping show the employees what their future could look like here, and having those communications go really well. Um, yeah, for me personally, oftentimes when you're in jobs, you might not enjoy it as much, you might not like your manager as much, or there might be something there. But for me, every job that I've had, the good, the bad, the ugly, has led me into the progression of my career. So I just find that it's so important that you look at what you're doing and help have that awareness to know that what you're doing now will probably at some point in time position you for something later, and just what can you gain from it, even if it's not a great job or not a great manager, what can you learn from it, and how can you carry that forward and use it to your advantage in your career and your development.
You keep talking about these things and it seems like a lot. So whenever you came in and said, hey, I need to build up some team around me, it really it's powerful. So nice work. And just quick clarification, Ayers is not a brokerage firm, right? You said that you left that. So if you just
Yeah,
want to share that for everybody real quick, what does Ayers even do?
sure. Ayers is a global relocation company. So we move companies' employees around the globe. So it's very HR focused. I joke that in past life, I would have really loved to have known that Ayers existed when I was trying to take a man from Michigan and put him in China, and we were dealing with all of the payroll taxes and a house that we had to sell and all of those things. So yeah, we do A to Z of relocation. And so from the minute that, if you're moving with your company, the minute that you find out you're relocating, one of our mobility specialists will reach out and contact you and do the hand holding from the time you are packing up your house, the movers to get there, everything. And then we have other departments that handle the international compensation if you're going abroad. It's a full service company and supporting our clients and their employees. So it's a very customer service focused job that we have. Most every position we have is just solely focused on the customers.
Okay, so hey everybody, if your people are moving, then give Jill a call.
Yes, please.
All right, Jill, as we move into this last piece of the podcast here today, there's a couple of quick fire questions. So you ready for this as we get closer to wrapping things up?
I mean, I'll try my best.
All right, first one is about reading. We hear this is something that's important for us to do. Sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. If there's a book that you're reading right now or a recommended must read for folks listening, what do you got?
So I read a lot. It varies depending on if I'm reading for fun and to kind of get my brain off of something or for work. But what I find that's interesting is just reading something that, if it's going to be something I want to learn and grow from, just trying to find an autobiography that's so completely different than what I would expect or want to know about or learn about. So, I mean, one of my favorites that comes to mind is not work related, but still, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, his autobiography was awesome. And he's just such a creative, and I don't view myself as so creative. And so I just found it so interesting to listen to like his life and his approach and how he was raised and what he was as a younger kid to where he is now and what he gives back and everything. So for me, that was it was interesting for a different reason.
You said you're a fixer. I think there's some creativity needed whenever you're fixing things, right?
In a very like business creative maybe mindset, not so much in a very cool rock and roll creative way, but
Cool is it's all relative. All right, so the next one, Jill, we're rewinding a couple of years. You decide how many to the younger Jill, and you get to give yourself some advice. What is the advice that you'd give your younger self? More documentaries sooner.
Yeah, probably learn these life lessons sooner, Jill. Yeah. My mother always used to say, where's the softer side of Jill? You know, that Sears commercial, like the softer side of Sears, when they were trying, like, where's the softer side of Jill? Because I was pretty, like, if you know disc, I was like a high D on disc. And so I was, just always pushing, pressing, moving, doing. And so I think I probably would tell myself just to simmer down, take a breath a little bit more, like you'll get where you need to get to. And just, but that was always been the drive for me. So I would probably tell myself just to take a breath.
Will you be taking a breath at the PHRA golf and bocce outing this year by chance?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I am neither a golfer nor a bocce player, but I can drive a golf cart. So we'll see if Liz can guarantee a spot of me driving a golf cart, then
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we might be able to work something out there. Cool. Now the last one to wrap things up, Jill. Desk toys. It's a
mhm.
weird one, but it's something that we've brought in season 2 of the P4 podcast. Is there a cool desk toy? It's just something that comes along with you from roll to roll, office to
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, so my home office has more of my daughter's things that she gives me and makes me chuckle about. But I have this car that is from Disney that a friend brought like 15 years ago, and it's one of like the best. The new cars aren't built what they were used to, like the
Oh
the
yeah.
new cars are flimsy, but this is super solid, and it stands up on its tail.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's really heavy and it does wheelies and stuff. So I play with that a lot. And then my Bob Ross bobblehead.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always with me and he stays in the box. It's unopened. He stays in the box. Yeah.
Nice. Are you do you ever watch Bob Ross to unwind?
I used to. Yeah, I used to watch them all the time, but no, not anymore. And then I always have those too.
Can do it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Those are 2 very popular Halloween costumes as of late, Rosie the Riveter and Bob Ross.
I didn't know Bob Ross was making a comeback for Halloween. That's good to know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, over the last 5-10 years, I'd say
Yeah.
all across the East Coast, all across the country, I've seen those.
Wow.
So back to P4. Jill, thanks so much for your time today. Some of my takeaways, right? It's important to be proactive, to be consistent, to listen at all levels, and that it takes time, and that inclusion is something that we live, breathe, walk, talk, and do throughout our entire employee life cycle, right, from start to end, and as we move around. And the other cool piece that you highlighted a lot is around the X, right, because we might not be able to say everything, but we want to give the space for everything to be included, heard, and realized. It was cool to hear the X Factor program early on. I saw the X coming through time and time again. So Jill Porter Scott, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of P4 today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
People do matter, and at the end of the day, we cannot get any work done if we don't have the right people in place. Are your people connected? Latitude is the one-stop shop people connection software platform. Our software workshops and programming facilitate new employee onboarding, manager 101s, stay interviews, mentorship programs, and peer networking to increase retention, engagement, satisfaction, productivity, profitability, and happiness. Imagine a technology that intersects your calendar with LinkedIn, Zoom, Google Docs, and your CRM. Contact Latitude today to schedule a conversation.
The PHRA P4 podcast was created to help build HR leaders through discussions with thought and business leaders on the most critical success factor of any business, its people. If you enjoy an episode, please help us spread the word by subscribing to the podcast and providing us a rating. We would love for you to take a screenshot of the episode, tag PHRA, and share it with your followers. Until next time, thank you